What up, y'all? Today I wanted to talk to you about the narcissist and how when they have lost their primary grade A supply and they cannot get them back, they will be obsessed. They'll be obsessed because they have lost the best high value individual that they've ever met in their life, and this doesn't hit them right away, but it hits them over time. So it's kind of like, you know, when you refused Hoovers, but then you would give in to a Hoover. Well, they're really used to you giving in, and over time, maybe like in maybe a 3-month, 6-month period, that, you know, they refuse that Hoover, but they're gonna accept, you know, when I want them next time. Okay, and this is how they are. So they'll go out with some other alternative supplies, and then they'll circle around when they have, you know, kind of destroyed them and they're just not cutting it for them. And, you know, they want to come back to that old source supply, because what happened is they've been out there for a while. And when they've been out there for a while, and, you know, they thought the grass was greener, so they go out there and the grass is greener, especially if you have left them, if you discarded them before they discarded you, kind of thing, because, you know, you just had enough or whatever. I mean, it really applies even if you've been discarded, because at some point in time, you gain your value back to where it's almost like you discarded them because you're just living your life, or you refuse so many Hoovers that, you know, you're kind of at a level of independence and you're back on top, and, you know, you don't need no junk in your life. So you kind of like they'll come back to you, and a lot of times you won't even know it's a Hoover attempt if they're just kind of like checking on you, see how you're doing, and you don't respond, or you just respond with like a couple of words and that's it, you know, like and those types of things start to those are like narcissist injuries, and those are Hoover refusals. And or if you get an email and you just don't even respond to it, anything from them after a discard. So if you've been discarded and you've had these things from the narcissist and you refuse to answer them, then you refuse to Hoover, pretty much, because they are wanting to come back. And, you know, they try to find ways like this so that they don't injure themselves. It's less of an injury to them. You know, we call those heat checks, you know, kind of like you put your hand on a stove and you tap it to see how hot it is. And if it's just warm, you can lay your hand on it. You know what I mean? After you've tapped it a few times. But if it's really hot, whoo, stay away from that. You know, so that's like a heat check. So if, you know, they heat check and it's real hot, that means they know that they can come in and say whatever they want to get you back. If it's cold, then they know that it's a bad response for them. They might as well just stay away and try to find one of their other sources of supply for a while, because you as a source is just going to give them a narcissist injury, because you're not going to accept them if they try to go all in with you. You'll just refuse it, and then they'll really look bad and they'll feel really bad. And so, you know, they're shame-based. So a lot of times also they know all these like feelings, because this is the thing. A lot of people think that the narcissist doesn't have emotions. They do have emotions. They can't regulate their emotions at all. In fact, they're flinging them all over the place. And so you're their emotional regulation. So they have heavy emotions, but they're all like, mainly they're all emotions of, they're a lot of emotions, at least at this point in time, when they're coming to Hoover, is kind of like they're dealing with a lot of shame and stuff that kind of starts to bubble over in the background, because they know what they've done to you. And this stuff, like, especially when they start to, because they do miss you. They do miss you. I mean, but it's, you know, of course they just want to miss you to use you. But what happens is they will, you know, especially they'll start to ruminate on you. They will. I know a lot of people on channels will say they don't, but they will. They will ruminate on you. And if you start to turn down Hoovers, or you start to look good and you've moved on, and it's pretty clear that they have like messed up your history with them bad enough, or you've smartened up enough to where, you will never take them back, then they have a really hard time getting over that. And there's a lot of that, all that stuff from what they did to you starts to bubble over. We say like reaping what you sow. Well, this is when that reaping starts to come back. Now, out and about, they may look okay. They may look fine, but you got to understand, like when you were in a relationship with them, they're miserable. They're miserable all the time. And anybody that is attached to them is dealing with, the only reason they would be with them is to gain something, or the trauma bond. I mean, outside of gaining something through the narcissist, or being just as toxic as them, meaning their supply for each other. And a lot of narcissists do that because they do find themselves with nobody, so they will go back to an old source of supply that's narcissist, and because a narcissist will always take supply back, especially like a Jezebel or something. They love that. But then they'll abuse each other, and then whatever, but they'll be very transactional, and that's pretty obvious with them. There's usually no conversation. They're usually like cheating behind their backs, or have supplemental supply, because a narcissist with another narcissist can never do it, and so they could never be legit with another narcissist, because they have so much selfishness and jealousy and all that stuff that bubbles over. But they can get into an enmeshment with another narcissist individual, but it's usually very volatile. And so, but when they can't get you back, what they'll do is try to turn somebody into you, because they can't get you, so they have to make a version of you. Because what happens is they go out there to the greener pastures, and they're not green. They find it's all not so hot out there. It's very volatile. They don't like it. They don't like the volatility that they're dealing with. I mean, they do like volatility, but not that type. They don't like, they're probably losing a lot, because a lot of people don't put up with that stuff these days, and they will, get discarded themselves a lot. And, or whoever they're dealing with is like bottom of the barrel, because, you were the top of the chain. The problem is you were the bar, you were the highest level empath that they have met, and then when you wake up, you're even more awesome, because what happens is you start to turn them away, and you start to respect yourself and love yourself, and this is why they originally came to you. So now, not only are you where you used to be when you originally met them, but because then they broke you down, and then they completely disrespected you. So but with time, you healed. You got shook up enough to where it helps you to realize, man, this is my only life, and if I'm gonna do things, I got to do it to the best of my ability now. And then you're waking up to the narcissism. You realize, and you start kicking all these leftover people in your life that have been sucking off you and have been draining you, and you didn't really focus too much on that in the past, or you were under that spell a little bit. And so, you have smartened up. You've gotten what the Bible would say wisdom, called wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, because you're starting to obey instead of sacrificing your life and your finances and all of your blood, sweat, and tears and your energy for the individuals that don't care about you. So now that you have separated yourself, now you're getting drawn closer to God, and truly, the world will make people that draw close to God look like a mockery. But truly, the coolest people in the world are the true people of God, because they don't just put up with this stuff. I mean, the real true men and women of this world, the cool folk, man, they're not going to be a mockery, and they're not going to look like the world. After you understand the narcissist, you understand how foolish and ridiculous they are, and how desperate they are for anything they can get. A lot of times they're with people that are 30 years older than them, these supply sources, and they got to do things that they wouldn't they don't, it's almost degrading for them, but they need that fuel. They need to distract themselves. So they're going to have sources of supply like that. And then they're going to have the ridiculous ones, or the ones that abuse them, either verbally or use them, or even physically. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's funny, but that's what they deal with when they're not with you a lot of times. And that's why, but they can't do anything but abuse, because they're abusers. So their cycle is always a cycle of abuse. And anytime you just get what do they call a respite period, where it's like a little break, or a little bit of breadcrumbing of a love bomb, but that's just to keep you there. You're still in constant devalue mode, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist. And so what happens is they will ruminate on you, and because they've actually treated you bad, and there's never been closure as well, because they never have closure or give closure. Now this all puts into this rumination being worse and worse. And then the more that they are ruminating, it starts to come out in their conversation, in their emotions, in their thoughts, in their, just like when you were in the trauma bond before you broke it, you were doing a lot of these things, but they did it through a spell to where, they're actually dealing with it, because for them, it's reaping what they've sown. And this is the bad thing, because they are, they have given themselves up to negative energy for so long and so much and so bad, that it's almost like they've lost themselves. And, I think that they really thought that there was going to be something that they were going to gain from this, like power, control, and courage, and, all of these great things. Well, they find themselves that they've lost themselves, their soul, meaning, really, it's horrible, because they came into covenant with something that completely lied to them, used them after it got control of them. Things start out as a foothold, and then become a stronghold, and then become possession, or, kind of like in complete control, I'll say. How about that? And so this is what happened to them, and now they are completely addicted, and they're not even happy, they're not even fulfilled, and they're getting the bottom of the barrel most of the time. And a lot of times we like to think that, they have the world in their hands, or, everything's going right for them. It's not. What you're seeing is this outside version of them, the mask. Anything you see outside of the home, and outside of, work, school, and home, is going to be the mask. Everything in work, school, and home is going to, outside of the home. So work and school and friendships, work, school, and friendships are all going to be the mask. When you're going to see how they truly are, it's behind closed doors. They're miserable, and they become more and more miserable, because they are in a cycle to nowhere. It's always the same thing. So they don't grow spiritually. They don't grow mentally. And, they're too lazy to want to do anything. And all of their energy is spent looking for another new source of supply, the next best thing, or just fuel for today or tomorrow. The problem is the longer that they do this, and the longer they get out from you, being their best primary source they've ever had, they get stuck. They get stuck because they don't know what to do. They can't get you back, and you were the best. So they're forced to live in defeat when, they've been used to living in power and control and superiority, and, destroying everybody in their pathways, so they feel like they're a conqueror. And when they meet you, and then you refuse to take them back, and they can't elevate, meaning elevate, only thing they can elevate in is in their sources of supply. They can't do it anymore because you were the best. When you were the best and they can never elevate, then this is a constant devaluation of them, of their whole self. And they know this. There's no way to get around it. And because they ruminate on it and they think about it all the time, every time they're going out to get a new source of supply and it turns out bad or less than yours, because they're always trying to do more, better when it comes to supply sources. And when they can't, they're just a failure. And so in the past, they could always rationalize how they're not a failure when they were a failure. But in the case of this, they can't rationalize this one. This one's impossible. And they try to. And they try to by making somebody turning somebody into you over time. But, you know, this won't happen exactly right away. This is going to take time. Maybe like it's in steps. The first 3 months, they feel it a little. The 6 months after, it hurts a little bit more. And after a year, it starts to really set in. And especially as you're not just moving on, but you leveled up 2-3 times. Because after you wake up from narcissism, there's nothing to do but level up. You have to level up at least twice. I mean, because you've been being used yourself your whole life. And now you're not. Now you're in control. You dealt with a lot of your childhood issues. You found out where they were coming from. You also found out things that were keeping you from your connection with the Lord. And so you're kicking out toxins. It's almost like when you could quit drinking alcohol and you're never drinking anymore. You're never doing drugs anymore if you were doing drugs and alcohol. And you start to focus on eating right and going to the gym every day and exercising and meditating and reading the word and stuff. These things, from a change from drinking, doing drugs, and having a lewd life to now cleaning it up, you feel better, look better, live better, elevate quicker, and you do not have these pitfalls because what are you doing? You're obeying now. You're not sacrificing. Meaning, if you obey, you will save yourself from having to sacrifice time, money, energy, looks, years of failure because you disobeyed. That's what that means. But anyway, if you're out there, give me a like, subscription, and a thumbs up. I love y'all. And till next time, soldier up. Peace. I'm out.